No, 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 no. We're having none of this Mac Mini slander on my platform. The M4 Mac Mini, in my opinion, is hands down, there's no debate, there's no question, the best Apple product of the year. Not only because it's probably one of the only Apple products that got a redesign, but it also got a great redesign. It is substantially smaller than the old Mac Mini. It doubles down on the fact that it is supposed to be mini in the first place, and it's faster than before, and the prices are the same. There's so much more capability in such a smaller footprint. I can't wait to try it out myself, but in today's video, I'm explaining any potential criticisms of the M4 Mac Mini are wrong, and they are extremely wrong. Let's begin. So I was very busy the morning of course. I had to pull off the side of the road, plug in my car because I was late for a meeting at my other job at Tello Trucks, another company that's extremely passionate about putting a lot of utility in a really small footprint. I didn't have the most amount of free time that day to dive into the comments and figure out what the public's general reaction was to the M4 Mac Mini, and I didn't get a ton of time to, of course, share my thoughts about how awesome it was. But once I finally had a chance to start reading some of the internet's comments and questions surrounding the Mac Mini, I realized, oh, everybody's stupid! Except for me, because while I do criticize and complain about Apple a lot of the time, I'm still an Apple sheep at my core, okay? There's still a deep-rooted Apple defense lawyer in my heart, and sometimes, even in 2024, he will come out and explain why everybody is so wrong. So first big complaint that I think is completely missing the point. The headphone jack is on the front. I made a big deal about that because no one really predicted it. There was some rumors, some leaks claiming there would be frontal I/O, but even after the accidental Amazon leak, no one was able to catch that there was going to be a headphone jack on the front, which I thought was super convenient, super cool. If you need to plug in wired headphones, boom, you just do it right there on the front. But a bunch of stupid commenters started complaining that, oh, well, I plug in my desktop speakers to my Mac Mini, and now that's inconvenient because I gotta plug in my audio monitors to the front. No, 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 no. You got that completely wrong. First of all, Apple is probably assuming that because the Mac Mini doesn't have a display or 120 Hertz, that you're having to plug in some kind of monitor to the Mac Mini. Now, there's two real hypothetical solutions here. For one, you're using it with like a Pro Display XDR or a Studio Display, and those have built-in speakers already. So you just plug in via Thunderbolt and boom, there's the speakers you need. But of course, they know that not everybody is rocking the Studio Display or the Pro Display, so that's why they still got a freaking HDMI port on the back. That's what most cheaper, basic third-party monitors use. And guess what? Pretty much all of those HDMI monitors out there have a headphone jack attachment. So rather than clog up the back of your Mac Mini with cables unnecessarily, you could plug in your desktop speakers or, your audio monitors directly to the HDMI-powered monitor so that you get dual functionality with that single HDMI port. Yes, HDMI does audio, not just video. Stupid easy solution there, and at the very least, if you're very, very picky about the way these things are plugged in, keep in mind that the previous generation Mac Mini had no frontal I/O whatsoever. So if you're that passionate about the headphone jack being more easily accessible, you could literally just put this new Mac Mini sideways on your desk and plug certain cables into the side and your headphone jack on the other side, and boom, okay, you miss out on the frontal I/O, but it works just like every other Mac Mini ever works. Still takes up less space at the end of the day, and again, it's so tiny, it's so small, it's so lightweight, you could hide this thing anywhere and plug some cable into every single port on this thing and have all of them accessible to you, and the Mac Mini's just disappeared. That's been an option, that still is an option, and complaining about the fact that Apple has finally added frontal I/O to a desktop computer that's more affordable than the Mac Studio, I think is ridiculous, and everyone is just being petty, okay? We can complain all day about how Apple Intelligence is overhyped and overmarketed. There, I'll agree with you, but as far as the hardware is concerned, no. John Turnus knocked it out of the park with the M4 Mac Mini. But then there was another little detail that I totally missed on my brief 6-minute recap video once the Mac Mini dropped, and that's the relocation of the power button. Everybody was freaking out about this unnecessarily, and I can tell none of them are really Mac users out there because they moved the power button to more of the underneath segment of the Mac Mini, even though it protrudes way more than it does before. So the old Mac Mini also had a power button on the back, just like most Macs do, but it was perfectly perfectly flush with the overall sides, which meant that you had to really kind of feel for it and look for it before. Whereas now, because of its more circular protrusion, you can feel for it and power up the Mac Mini a lot easily. But a lot of stupid Windows fans and PC users out there were like, oh no, that's a button I have to use all the time. Why would they put it at the bottom? It's just like the Magic Mouse, yada yada yada. But okay, look, at the end of the day, this is a desktop. And more than that, it's an ARM-powered desktop, okay? The efficiency cores in Apple Silicon have gotten so freaking good now that the idea that you need to shut down your computer at the end of the day is kind of a dated one. Maybe you're used to your Windows PC crashing all the time, and that's why you're used to having the power button so accessible, because you gotta hold it down, restart the thing because it's always freezing. But this is a Mac, okay? This is a very powerful Mac, and because it's on the ARM architecture, most people are probably never actually shutting it off. They put it to sleep, and then you can wake it up again just by slapping the keyboard, slapping the mouse, or the trackpad, whatever you end up using, and boom, it will immediately wake up, okay? That's how most people interact with their desktop Macs. Very rarely do you actually need to shut the whole thing down. Even to those people out there that are like, no, it's good for the software to reboot on occasion. Well, guess what? It automatically happens whenever there's a software update, which happens every couple of weeks, or maybe just once a month, but still, that automatically puts the Mac Mini all the way shut off, and then you don't have to press the power button again. It knows to just reboot once the installation is complete. So that's a baloney complaint, and if you're worried about like, well, I unplug the power from my Mac Mini all the time, and I need a way to power it back up, well, I don't have it yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if the first time that the Mac Mini gets power, it automatically turns back on again anyway. That's at least how it works with my Apple TV, which is very similar to the design and shape of the Mac Mini, which is just great. That $100 Apple TV and the Mac Mini that's much more expensive but still reasonable for a Mac actually have quite a lot in common. But yeah, like the Apple TV doesn't have a power button. You just plug it in and it knows to turn on, and then you put it to sleep with your Siri remote, because those efficiency cores that are idling when the computers are put to sleep, they use such absurdly low power, it's not even worth shutting them down all the way. And if you're moving your Mac Mini around constantly all the time and you're worried about that, then like you're gonna interact with the power button anyway, because you're having to pick the whole thing up. It's not like you're dropping these Mac Minis into cartridges and then having to reach for the power button. No, Apple thought about all these things, and I can't believe that despite getting the coolest Apple product of the year, and yes, I'm including Apple Vision Pro, that is not as exciting to me as the M4 Mac Mini, people still found stupid complaints with it, and they found a way to get mad, even though, like, hey, if you're mad that the iMac is still 60 hertz and the studio display 60 hertz, well, guess what? You can buy a $300 144 hertz monitor like me that's 32 inches and curved, and get that high refresh rate display, plug it into your Mac Mini, and have the amazing performance of the M4 chip. Plug in your desktop speakers to the headphone jack on that cheap external monitor, control it that way, and then when you need to use headphones, you can plug it into the frontal port on the Mac Mini, and still have access to 3 Thunderbolt ports on the back, which is the same number of Thunderbolt ports as a MacBook Pro. That means more I/O than a MacBook Air for less money, and you don't have to buy the stupid Apple Magic Keyboard, Magic Mouse. You can use any old third-party keyboard and accessory. It's the first carbon-neutral Mac, and it's more environmentally friendly because you can use your existing keyboard and mouse and monitors with it. You don't have to buy a whole new suite of accessories. It's just such a great product inside and out. The performance, the I/O, the design, that I will not accept any slander or complaints from anybody in the community, okay? This is as darn near close as we get to a flawless product. There is nothing wrong with it. If you think there's something wrong with it, there's something wrong with you, and I will hear none of it, okay? I will ban anyone in the comments saying negative things about the greatest Apple product we've had this side of the century. Thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos, and I am still mad. This is your Alp Sheep here, and I will see you with an M4 Mac Mini.